all of this stuff. Pattern, rhythmic, repetitive, repeated with sufficiency and frequency. Know your kids. Some kids might need it just a little bit, and there's other kids that are, by the end of the year, oh gosh, you should have remembered that from the beginning of the year, but it might not have been frequent enough or revisited enough to stick with them. And again, done within the context of relationship. I can put on something like this. It's effective for me. It not only knows that my coworkers up here are getting the same information that I do, it makes me feel good, but I'm relating it to something else. Relationship isn't always done person to person. And that brings that thinking back from that lower brain to the frontal cortex. You guys have a handout with you. And one of the ones, at the top, it's like a double column list. We're not going to go over too much other than me pointing it out. This list was put together in the Creating Trauma Sensitive, for the Creating Trauma Sensitive Schools, which again was University of Milwaukee Education and Psychology students, St. A's, which is formerly St. Alien's Lakeside, Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. This stuff is all available on Wisconsin Department of Instruction website. The links are on the email that I sent you. But these are active lists of things that you can try or have the students pick from. If it's too many things for a student to pick from, limit some of it. And again, these are the kids where you want to track it. Average students are about 2 weeks. Some of these traumatized students only want to try it for a week or two before the novelty wears off, but we want to stick with it. This is what we're going to do. I can change your color of your scrubby today, but we're gonna do scrubbies and we're gonna spell that's what's there. Giving them a choice in something else versus not to do it. And that conscious discipline really talks about that too. Very often when we give kids choices, we give them the in or out option of choices. Either you do your homework or you leave the classroom. Either you do your homework or you stay in for recess. That doesn't always work because it gives them an option to not do it. So if the expectation is they need to do the work, or part of the work, we can change maybe what's expected of that, but not giving them the out. Would you like to do your homework in crayon or pencil? And it may be math and it may frustrate us that it's in crayon. Do you want to do your homework on the whiteboard so you can erase it? If you're the perfectionist and you got mad at that problem, it's gone. On the computer, it's gone. It pops up on a lot of those math programs. They flash it, they get them wrong, they're gone. They don't have to look at a piece of paper with a red mark on it. So those are some strategies and things to do. Even when teachers, like I will scribe, when the kids come up for some of the algebra problems, they'll do them on the whiteboard. I'll scribe what they're doing or they're thinking, wrong or right, not verbally redirect them. But if they get it wrong, they can wipe it themselves. If they see something, it's gone. They don't have to erase. They don't have to wreck a test. All those things that are there. So hopefully you can have that. The other handout that you have, just to bring your attention to, is the building blocks of a relationship. Again, it says use of positive touch. We're in the education system. A lot of the schools, it's a no hands-off policy. But the idea of touch. What can we teach them to do that's socially appropriate while we're engaging in conversation? Because we know that the sensory is already there. It creates a safety and security for them to feel that kind of caress or thing. So some of this we can't personally do, but when we think about shaking hands with somebody, not only are we teaching them a social skill, it's physical touch. It's a bonding kind of relationship, and that we can do. So it's a kind of double thing. Non-physical attention, ways to talk to somebody. Very often in education we talk about praise. Any of you guys that know ODD kids know that as soon as you praise them, they're going to stop doing what they're doing. It's probably up the wayside for about a week or more. Okay? The praise becomes nonverbal, thumbs up and walk on by. We don't want to not praise, we want to give it to them in a different way. So some of the students know what's going on. And on the back is just some more praise kind of things that you guys can look over. This is an older version of a behavior change pyramid, which we're switching into our PBIS. when we're talking PBIS and some other people are going, oh my gosh, we're letting them get away with everything, what are we doing? We're getting back, the PBIS model is really looking back into, not everybody's taught this at home. We have a kid in the office with an anger issue who's screaming at the principal, and the parents are called. And the parents come in and scream at the principal. So we can't assume that everybody knows the same things. But this is the older behavioral change pyramid. Usually that's that negative reinforcement. It could also be that, hey, I see you're off task, abuse management. Changing that verbiage to intentional wording, and that's some of what conscious discipline talks about, using intentional wording. I see you're struggling, what do you need? Okay, bringing it back, especially these kids with traumas, they have these unmet needs. Bringing it back to them, knowing that you're going to support them. Very often these kids, about 80% of the kids I work with up here, once they realize that their needs are going to be met, or somebody noticed they have a need, is enough to get them working again. So that kind of intentional wording is huge. And we're going to stand up and try this lastly before we go. And we've seen some of the strategies. I'm going to actually show this. If anybody knows St. John's, I have the crochet thing here. Pattern and repetitiveness. There is a 4th or 5th grade teacher over there, and I don't know if she's still there, but she used to teach the multiplication table using knitting or crocheting. If anybody can have that pattern repetitiveness is huge. I would love to get my hands on that. But again, simple dollar store things. Jumping rope is repetitive. Exercise, oxygen to the brain. You can have multiple things. Shaving cream is sensory. Practice shaving cream, not just with cognitive kids. Shaving cream on the back table is a spelling kind of thing. Visual timers, taking out the argument of a lot of this stuff. Again, Play-Doh. My daughter made this, old fleece and rice. Do not use instant rice, but you can microwave it. It's warm compress, sensory. Placemat kind of things. These are the cupboard liners at the dollar store for kids that have a hard time standing in line and needing to understand personal space. A lot of these kids have spatial issues with trauma. Snip off a piece, the kid picks it up and carries it with them. If they don't want to look different, the class gets one. It's very versatile, very cheap to replace if something is going on. But we're going to practice these 2 breathing exercises before we go. We've looked at a lot of other strategies and some other coping mechanisms, but these are 2 that conscious discipline does. So if you guys can stand up.